Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Corsace Open 2022. I am myFlame, and we have an absolute banger of a match for you guys today. First match of quarterfinals is going to be Whispering Almond versus Throwing Up, formerly known as Floating Up, but gone through a bit of a name change for this edition of the tournament. And I think these are going to be two of the teams that people want to see play most. You do see the format here, pretty different from any other format you've seen so far. So at the start of the match, both teams are going to each get to protect one map. That map cannot be banned out for the rest of the match. Immediately after protect, each team gets to ban one map. 4 maps are played, and then each team gets to ban another map. So in total, each team will get the standard 2 bans. They are, of course, just going to be slightly spaced out. And we are going to be having a best of 11 this week, as opposed to the best of 9 from last week. Now let's take a look at both of these teams here. Now, keep in mind, I have heard that both of these teams are missing quite a few players, so it's going to be a little bit shaken up. But on the side of Whispering Almond, this roster is just so stacked. We've got Bartek, I'm a Fancy Lad, Utami, Badu, Malice, Rectigon, Taquito, and Majore. This is obviously the first seed. They have just looked so strong coming into this tournament. You see how strong all of the stats look. Compared to the side of Throwing Up. And Throwing Up, very strong team themselves. You got Vivace, Xarius, Chocomet, Monko2K, Doomy, Tony, Dictopia, and GS Blank. A lot of kind of older tournament players that are back here. And so Throwing Up are going to have a very tough match ahead of them. But certainly can't count them out, and it really is going to depend on who shows up to this match, because just based on how awkward the time is, obviously it being 0 UTC, this is just an awful time to play for any of the Asian or European players. And so I think both of these teams have really limited rosters today, and we'll see if that can push this match into Throwing Up's favor at all. And welcome, Diaz Thong, to the booth. How are you doing today? We should be getting into pick ban warm up pretty shortly now, and just going to be waiting on the first protects coming out here. Talking about protected picks, we have seen Throwing Up opt to protect a lot of the double time picks here, and so I want to see if they are going to opt for something like that again. Now, Whispering Almond, of course, being the first seed, just doesn't really seem to have many weaknesses, and so their protects are a little bit less clear. They have been picking a lot of no-mod, protecting a lot of no-mod as well. They might continue that trend, and I think today the pick ban, more so than usual, is going to be very dependent on which players are actually here for this match and what those specific players feel comfortable on. So we might see some kind of more unusual protects and bans from these two teams. Throwing Up going to be opting for the DT2 protect. I do think this makes a lot of sense. They have looked especially good on the DTs so far here. And Whispering Almond, we might just see them protect a no mod 3, a no mod 4 that they have just looked so good on throughout this tournament so far. Whispering Almond did also win their last match by a forfeit, so Throwing Up does not have nearly as much information on Whispering Almond to work with. They do, of course, have the qualifier results and the round of 32 match, but round of 32 tends to be such low SR that there's not a ton of information to be gained, especially when it comes to these top teams. Alright, so we now welcome Dio to the commentator booth. How's your day going, bud?
My day is going just fine. Hoping my mic quality is okay, at least. I'm on backup mic since my old one broke last weekend. Unfortunately, couldn't cast anything. But I am here for a matchup that I think is going to be actually pretty good. Whispering Almond, as you've already talked about, the top seed in the tournament, and one of the better teams that you're going to find in any general open rank tournament at this point. All of these players, with the exception of Rectigon, have been really disgustingly good over the course of the last year. Rectigon only just getting back into the tournament scene after recently being unbanned from tournaments. But Throwing Up, I think, still a very solid team overall. You have a lot of players on this team who several years ago you would have considered at the top of the game. Notably, Xarius coming back, somebody who hasn't played any OS tournaments in multiple years, coming back for this tournament with a team of a bunch of old players. Of course, you can kind of see the dynamic that's going on right now. Whispering Almond protecting Hard Rock Precision and getting aim banned against them, whereas Throwing Up protecting the speed and getting speed banned against them. So these teams already really have a game plan going into this matchup, and to be expected of teams with lots and lots of veterans on them who know exactly what they need to do to win during these types of matches.
We are going to be getting a Hard Rock 2 pick first out of Whispering Almond, and this is something Whispering Almond has done now in both of their matches. They protect their map, and they immediately after the bans pick their protected map here, something I think is really interesting. Not necessarily something I agree with. I do think you can save your protected maps for later on in the match. There's no need to pick them early. That's what we're going to be getting here. And so we are going to be getting into Hard Rock 2. That is, of course, going to be our CS 6.5 map. I do think this makes a lot of sense for a pick. Throwing Up so far throughout this tournament has by far struggled the most on some of these Hard Rock picks that they just don't seem to have a strong 4-person roster for.
This is definitely the sort of pick where I think Throwing Up, they're putting in maybe some players who wouldn't normally want to be in on Hard Rock only. Players, as you can hopefully see now, like GS Blank and Chocomint, who you would usually expect to be taking hidden on a lot of different types of maps. I think Munko and Dectopia are going to be relatively comfortable on this type of thing, but you can already see the accuracy for some of the players on the side of Throwing Up just not having a good time with the intro. Chocomint on 75%, 80%. Actually, nobody above 90% right now for Throwing Up. That's not to say that the side of Whispering Almond is having too much of a better time. We do see a couple early breaks for Utami and Rectigon, and only Fancy Lad on really, really solid ACK right now. Does drop some ACK on the 1/6 burst right there, but I mean, the difference is palpable, right? This is double score right out of the gate for Whispering Almond, just completely demolishing this first pick. And you can see why this Hard Rock 2 Protect came through, because this is a very, very good pick for them pretty clearly on this map.
Yeah, the map is honestly pretty tricky compared to the rest of the pool, and you can just see the combo advantage as well as the accuracy advantage on the side of Whispering Almond. They just look so comfortable on this pick, and they're already slowly approaching a 1 million point score lead as we get to the halfway point of this map. I think this one's pretty much already over. Really, GS Blank, the only one holding any combo on the side of Throwing Up. And I do want to talk about GS Blank for a second here. It does feel like all of the players on these matches are very kind of well-known top players, but GS Blank, maybe less known, has been on a bit of a tear in the tournament scene lately, and I feel like has been performing pretty well. Coming to a quarter of the map to go, and it's just going to be breaks all over the place once again for Throwing Up. Score lead is now 1.2 mil, and Whispering Almond will be taking their first point in this match.
To be expected on their protected pick, right? This Hard Rock 2. Very, very easily going their way. More than double score for Whispering Almond. 2.7 million team score. We are in the quarterfinals at this point, so not a huge team score, but you can see there reverse choke for Rectagon, just one miss at the start of the map. And everybody else hovering around that 500-600K mark for them. So pretty solid scores all around for Whispering Almond. I think we can maybe this weekend look to see from some of the other top tier teams higher scores than this. But this is a pretty solid team score for the first seed out of qualifiers. Relatively solid stuff. And we're getting a bit of a different pick here for this next one. It's going to be Fremod 2 coming through for Throwing Up. Zelophilia. Why don't you take us through this map, iFlame? What's going on with this one?
That is a great question. This is, honestly, I do not know a lot about this map, but I believe this is going to be a little bit more kind of tech-focused of a pick here. Of course, each team is going to need 2 unique mods, and so Throwing Up has looked solid on the free mod so far, just because I do have really strong AR8 players, as well as this way they can just put 1 player on the Hard Rock. I'm curious if that's going to end up being GS Blank. A little bit less clear for the rosters on the side of Whispering Almond.
Thinking this is going to be a... there's a couple of players on Throwing Up who I think are going to want to take Hidden, right? We saw GS Blank and Cookiesy, Shige, Chocolate in on the last one for Throwing Up, so either of them taking Hidden would be pretty expected on a map like this. This is probably not the type of map where we're going to see an overmod, right? Just listening to the pick, you can hear this is going to be a really alt-focused sort of map, about 155 BPM. So I don't think this is going to be the type of map where we're going to see a lot of over-modding. Likely to see double no mod, 1 hard rock, and 1 hidden from each side. We see the, I guess just flexing hidden hard rock for Malashevsky on this one, because that is straight up over-mod. He could have just gone no mod. Rectagon has hard rock and Bartek has hidden. So, that is a straight up over-mod for Whispering Almond. It's a risky move. We'll see if it pays off for him. At the moment, about an even score line, but a little bit favored to Whispering Almond going into this section right past the intro.
Especially with the Hard Rocks here, it's a little bit surprising. I feel like on kind of into these more alt-centric picks, it does tend to be a little bit more difficult on the Hard Rock. We do see a break out of Bartek, GS Blank, hitting it right back, and it's going to be pretty even combos across the board. Whispering Almond all just going to take an early edge off of that mod advantage here. And we did see Dectopia follow up with another miss, and so... Oh, chain misses from Dectopia. You really can't afford to find this many misses on the no-mod. Your no-mod players are the ones that you need to be putting up good combos here, because it is so much harder on these modded picks.
I do finally see the drop from Malashevsky as well, but it's matched by Munko on the side of Throwing Up. Both of their no-mods having dropped. And the only full combos on the board left on Rectagon and Chocomint at the moment, the 2 modded players there. Rectagon finally finding the drop. Chocomint misses on the wiggles right afterwards as well. It's a full reset for everybody, but that just favors the team who had advantage early on in the map, Whispering Almond. And if we're going to see more of those wiggles later on, along with some of these 1-6 that have been tripping up some of these players, you're not going to expect Throwing Up to pull off the comeback on this one. You see some more repeated breaks coming through for Dectopia and GS Blank, and like you said, the no mods here in Munko and Dectopia finding these pretty frequent misses for Throwing Up is just not what you want to see, and you have to question putting in Dectopia on a map like this, getting 200k with the no mod, whether they have their full roster and how prepared Dectopia was to go in for a map like this. So maybe a bit of that preparation lacking for Throwing Up for this matchup, given the fact that they do have a couple players in who are getting around that 200k mark. I think definitely maybe could have had some members in who may have done a bit better on it. I don't know exactly the preparation for both of these teams, but Throwing Up not looking their best on this map, unfortunately.
No, and you mentioned the rosters here for Throwing Up. It does feel like they're potentially lacking just the complete other 4 members of the roster. I feel like there's very few scenarios where you put in both Dectopia and GS Blank for your first 2 picks, especially considering the scores on that last free mod too. And so I'm wondering if the 4 players we've seen in the lobby for them so far are just the 4 they have. Whereas Whispering Almond seems to have a couple more. Not only that, but I think it surely has to be something like 8 in the morning for Chocomint, who so far throughout this tournament has been one of the big carries for Throwing Up, putting up some of those big scores and getting them through, especially that last match where they were brought to tiebreaker. Meanwhile, Whispering Almond, they just have so much depth to their lineup where it feels like any one of these players can FC. And so there's not necessarily too much pressure on any one of them to pull off a really massive combo. They're just so strong all around.
Yeah, it's definitely not until we get till those later stages, semifinals, finals, and grands, right? In the quarterfinals here, I think, like you said, still not too much pressure on them. But speaking of that lack of pressure, they're back to their own pick now. It is NoMod 6. Just want to talk a little bit about the map before we get into it here. Devious Panda, custom for Corsace. Obviously, all the maps are custom. Shout out to the mappers and to the mapping team for putting stuff like that together, because it's kind of ridiculous that they're still able to do it multiple years in a row. And as you can see, it's a Rhythm Hell map. I think a lot of this map has much less 1/6, 1/4 transitions than some of his previous maps. They're still there, of course, and you can see them early on. But yeah, once again, the same 4 players for Throwing Up. So you have to think maybe these are the 4 they're going to be sticking with for one reason or another during this matchup. A lot of aim control in this map, a lot of slider aim, and a lot of, like we saw in the previous free mod pick, a lot of wiggle streams. And, well, unfortunately, that last free mod pick didn't work out so well for Throwing Up, so I don't think this NoMod 6 pick will work out very well for them either. Meanwhile, Whispering Almond sitting pretty, up 200,000 score. It doesn't sound like much, but the opposing team has less than 200,000 score at the moment. And Shiga has stopped playing, so there we go.
Oh, no.
He's back on,
right.
Kind of.
Something like that. Whispering Almond, nearly 3 times the score of Throwing Up so far. Fancy Lad finally does find a miss, but Malice is still holding strong at the 500 combo. There is Monko matching. Malice finds the miss, and Monko has a chance to bring this back, but needs to hold. Really seems like the only player on Throwing Up who's really comfortable on this map. Accuracy is so low, though, that it's tough to really build up much score. Oh, no.
Oh.
It's on the slow section always.
Monko's still more than half of his team's score, by the way. Just casually sitting there, more than half of his team's score. Would be a pretty solid score on the side of Whispering Almond at this point as well. This map in general, very hard. You can see the finger control and aim control strain really, really difficult for a lot of players to deal with, or not even quite 3/4 of the way through. But it is still 800,000 team score for the #1 team out of qualifiers on this map, just to give you an idea of maybe the types of scores we're going to see on this map this weekend. Seems a tad hard.
Definitely a little bit hard, and Throwing Up just seemed kind of outclassed so far in this match. Obviously, Whispering Almond a very strong team, but they've nearly doubled Throwing Up's score on 2 of the first 3 picks, and with just chain misses everywhere. We might have to see them go for something a little bit easier in this pool, because they just seem kind of skill capped on this one. I mean, GS Blank and Dictopia especially, these are not really the kind of maps they're known for. Chocomint struggling as well on this one.
Yeah, this just does not look like a great match for Throwing Up at the moment. I don't know what happened to put them at 0 UTC, but this is, generally speaking, not a roster that wants to play at 0 UTC, I don't think. So unfortunate maybe scheduling circumstances for them this weekend. There's some rough scores on the side of Throwing Up. Not fantastic scores from the side of Whispering Almond. Talked about maybe that speaks to how hard the map is, rather than how good the players are, given the fact that this is the #1 seed out of qualifiers, putting up, an average 270k on this map per player. But they are still up 3-0, another successful pick for them. Throwing Up finally going for a protected pick here with the double time too, going for one of those speedier maps. I do like this from them. Given the players that they currently have here, I think this is a solid pick, but unfortunately, the players on the side of Whispering Almond are still going to be pretty good at this type of map. For this DT2, I think this is a DT2 that leans toward being pretty straightforward. It's an L-tier map. Has a lot of pretty basic streams and bursts in it, not a lot of finger control components, which means that players like Majora and Rectagon and Utami are going to be very, very solid on it. Taquito also apparently in for this one for Whispering Almond. Going to be a pretty solid player for them, given the fact that he just has been very good at speed in general as of recent. Has really stepped it up over the last year and a half in terms of his speed, and has been a very solid all-rounded player rather than more of a specialized player like he used to be. And you can see, getting into it, very, very straightforward, all streams and bursts in this map.
Yeah, this is one of those maps where I would expect Throwing Up to be at least competitive. We talk about how many missing they players have, but this has occasionally been their speed lineup. We have seen all of these players in for various speed picks, and so we can expect them to at least put up comparable scores to Whispering Almond. Dectopia finds a miss though, not going to be helping their cause.
Yeah, Dectopia is just not looking super solid on this one. 78% accuracy right now. So they are basically playing with a 3-member roster on this map for Throwing Up. And, well, only Chocomint is able to hold on right now. To his credit, holding the full combo, but not going to be enough when you have Rectagon, Von Lycaon, and also Taquito, also known as Taquito, and Utami, all holding FCs for Whispering Almond. And there goes Shige's FC. So this is already done with, and very likely to be a 4-0 for Whispering Almond.
I don't know if Chocomint has some just insanely shaky aim right now as well. And Whispering Almond kind of running away with this one. And when this is your protected pick, tough to say where you go next for Throwing Up. We do have half of this map left to go. They're, they're a million points behind, and I think they are pretty far out of this one. Majora misses again, but it doesn't really matter. Question now is just how many FCs are we going to see on the side of Whispering Almond? They all look pretty comfortable in this one. Rectagon especially, 98% accuracy.
Well, there's not too much to talk about regarding this map. But you know what we can talk about, iFlame?
What's that, Gio?
Momokai. Shoutouts to Momokai, who sponsor the Corsace Open, ! Sponsor, as they have actually partnered with Corsace to help the tournament grow. If you use code Corsace for a Momokai Simpad or Simpad Nano at momokai.com, you can get 10% off your order, and it goes towards helping Corsace.
That is truly incredible. Everybody in the Twitch chat should go check out Momokai right now. But as we get into the end of the map, it's just going to be the one FC from Utami. Utami has just been such a beast lately in tournaments, especially in USC. It's just putting up some incredible performances. But we do have the second round of bans now. And what do you ban if you're Throwing Up? Feels like Whispering Almond can pick just about anything. Not sure if we potentially see something like a No Mod 4 or a No Mod 3 banned out.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think anything getting banned feels pretty fine for Throwing Up at this point. They just have not had that great of a time. With the No Mod 1 ban and the Hard Rock 2 Protect, I could see them banning out something like the Hard Rock 1 and being pretty happy with that. But I could also see any of the other AIM maps, things like the DT1, getting banned out as well. From the side of Whispering Almond, I think that DT3 Protect is fine. You've already banned No Mod 5 and your opponent's protected DT2. Yes, you won it, but you may as well keep on going with the same trend. There's not too much of a reason to deviate from that, given that you are winning the other types of picks anyway. You've won pretty aim control heavy picks in the Hard Rock 2, Free Mod 2, and No Mod 6, so sticking with those types of maps is going to tend to bring you better results than maybe, quote-unquote, coin flipping a map like the DT3. So I think those bans are fine from both teams. DT4 pick now from Whispering Almond, and well, this is 191 BPM alt-style aim control, Salamandora no Odoriko by Hatsukiura. That's like Sky Flames, AR8 DT in this slot, and fits pretty well with what Whispering Almond have already been picking, which is that type of aim control, finger control, focus sorts of maps. Really, really hard, really high skill cap stuff.
Yeah, and the thing is, Throwing Up do have Shige, who is obviously an incredible aim control player. When you look at the rest of the rest of that roster, they're just not particularly suited for these aim control maps. I mean, GS Blank, Dictopia, really, strong players, but just not particularly known for their aim control abilities, whereas Whispering Almond just has such an incredible aim control lineup. Obviously, you have Fancy Lad, Utami, Rectagon, Badu, not here at the moment, but another very strong aim control player. And here we go into DT4. Throwing Up desperately need a point in this match. They are falling so far behind early on here, but they are not out of it just yet. And Dictopia going to be the first to find a miss. Majore and Fancy Lad going to be trading it back. And for the first time this match, it looks like Throwing Up should have an advantage here.
I wouldn't speak too soon about that. GS Blank also finding a miss now, and it's about even in combo, but the accuracy definitely favoring Whispering Almond over Throwing Up. Tommy and GS Blank going to trade the misses, but Dictopia finding an extra miss on top of that, going to throw the combo back into the favor of Whispering Almond, and just like that, we've got, once again, score lead, combo lead to Whispering Almond, as we see more frequent misses from GS Blank and Dictopia than from Majora and Utami. Just ever so slightly better combo for those members on Whispering Almond. But this is the first map we've had that's been kind of close between these two teams at the halfway point or so. Chocomint and Munko still holding on to full combos, and actually Fancy on a reverse choke, not quite the FC. So there is a chance at a comeback. Again, the accuracy is really what is bringing Throwing Up down, and well, a really unfortunate miss for Shige, as at this point, Whispering Almond's just going to run away with it. Munko and Shige both gone now, and yeah, same old song and dance.
Pretty much, yeah. Malice and Fancy are right back up there. Fancy finally finds the miss, but it just doesn't matter. Malice still on the FC, and Utami recovered really nicely. Is going to be just pushing the score lead so much. Dictopia finding another miss. Just feels so desperate for Throwing Up here. 500,000 score difference, quarter of the map to go. It feels so doomed for Throwing Up. Malice does find the miss, but Utami right there to back him up.
Yeah, this is that is going to be 5-0 for Whispering Almond. Not quite as dominant of a point this time around on Double Time 4, but still not close, unfortunately, for Throwing Up. With these four members alone, they can't really do too much in this matchup. To be expected, if you're missing four members against the number one seed, you are going to expect a pretty one-sided affair, and that is exactly what we are seeing. These four members have been in on every map for Throwing Up, and that's just not going to cut it for this team. Whispering Almond with higher highs and higher low scores as well on this map, winning across the board once again on their own pick, putting themselves at match point. And even though the next pick is Throwing Up, I mean, what do you pick if you're Throwing Up?
That is a very, very tough question here in this match. And to be clear, when we say not quite as dominant, they only won by 700,000 points this time instead of the usual 1 million. So Throwing Up, not going to feel a lot better about this one. I'm wondering if we see them just try and go for maybe a no-mod pick, but even the no-mods, I don't know what you pick here, and looks like the pick is in. It is going to be the Hidden 3. This does feel like very much kind of a Shige Apraxia map. Looking towards those two players to put up very good scores.
Well, unfortunately, Apraxia is not on this team, so he will not be putting up some good scores.
Xarius,
yes.
Xarius, that's the one.
Maybe Xarius, if he were here. I don't think he's here, though. I think we're just getting the same four members again, as we have throughout the match, because I don't think they have any other players. I think these are just their four. So
Sadly, it doesn't seem like it. And who are we looking at for the lineup for Whispering Almond? Definitely going to be seeing Utami in for this one. Probably going to be seeing Malice as well. I expect we probably see Bartek over Majere though.
yeah, I mean, there are quite a few good players on the side of Whispering Almond who could go in on this. I could see Bartek, Fancy, Utami, Badu if he were awake, Malashevsky, Taquito, all going in on this. I think they have 6 players they can choose from for this map. I think the only 2 players you don't put in are Rectagon and Majora. So just pick of the litter for Whispering Almond. Unfortunately, for throwing up the exact opposite, maybe not quite a 4-player roster, given that they only have 4 players to choose from. So going to be really looking at GS Blank and Shige on this one. They're 2 probably best hidden players on this roster to put up some solid scores for this map and potentially put a point on the board. Definitely not looking at throwing up to win this one, unfortunately, given the circumstances, but could potentially put a point on the board if they do manage to find some combos. Munko as well, just a really solid, well-rounded player and has been performing pretty well throughout this match, so potentially looking at him as well to put up some solid combos. Unfortunately, GS Blank and Munko going to be finding some drops here near the start, only matched by an earlier miss from Bartek, so combo lead on 2 members now for Whispering Almond.
Yeah, this map does feel like it plays a little bit into the Whispering Almond's favor. This is kind of the techie aim control pick that they have been looking to so far, and Just Blank is just missing over and over again. Accuracy is so low, and it's going to put them so far behind. Malice does find the miss here, along with Bartek missing earlier, is going to keep throwing up in this match so far, but there goes Ectopia. Next FC down is only Chuckamint holding now for throwing up, and they're desperately going to need misses out of all 3 players on the side of Whispering Almonds. This map is not that long either. Already halfway through into the break. Chuckamint needs to hold, and he does, but I don't think it's going to be enough. They're already so far behind.
Look at the accuracy on Taquito's play as well. 99.57 accuracy at the break. Still holding 2 FCs alongside Utami for Whispering Almond as compared to the 1 FC on Chuckamint right now. And what's more, look at the score difference for Whispering Almond, already up 800,000 score and climbing. Bartek with that reverse choke popping off alongside the 2 FCs for Taquito and Utami. Bartek finally going to find the chain miss near the end of the map, but there is no time left and not nearly enough score potential for anyone to bring this back for throwing up. An absolutely expected 6-0 sweep given the circumstances for Whispering Almond. You cannot be missing 4 members against the top team in the tournament and expect to do well at all. Whispering Almond showing off a bit here on this map. Double FC in the quarterfinals on that hidden 3.
They do, and Whispering Almond very well showing why they are the first seed in this tournament, possibly the favorites. Going to the semifinals, they will, of course, be facing the winner of Throwing Up Osu True Skill, but that was a very decisive, quick 6-0 for them, and they're going to be pretty happy with that one. I imagine a lot of those players going to be ready to go to bed.
Yeah, very solid stuff from them, and congratulations to Whispering Almond for, again, making it into that winner's bracket semifinals. So, not too much else to say about this one. They are going to be facing, for Whispering Almond, the winner of the versus no title later on in the weekend. The next match that we have in the quarterfinals is going to be tomorrow at 15 UTC. Or actually a couple of matches going on tomorrow. I believe we are streaming... actually, let me just double check real quick. It's going to be... Goofy Jets versus 14 UTC. Yes, very cool.
Very cool indeed. But with that being said, I think that's going to be it for this one. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Thank you, of course, Dio, for commentating with me today. And I hope you guys all have a good night.